Good, welcome ladies and gentlemen. What we want to do today is give you a nice and easy insight into the validation of cell inputs and into securing your sheets. So the first thing is open another of the files here again. Um, Whenever you enter something into a cell, it is not restricted, and that means if you have kind of your cells and your formula, which might be kind of easy calculation, it doesn't prevent anybody entering nonsense, which results in an error message of your calculation. So what we want to do is if we generate formulas, and mostly we will generate quite complicated formulas, we want to make sure that the people entering those cells are not doing any wrong enterings. So in my perspective, the idea is first of all to mark the cells that we want to make sure that people are entering information in, because telling the people, oh please only go to the cell O12 and O13 and enter something, don't go to O14 because there is the formula, doesn't work. So we want to make sure that they are only entered into the cell O12 and O13, and by default every cell has its formats, means the numbering format, the alignment, the font, the border, the filling, and the protection. And within the protection you find this nice looking option like locked. So basically every cell by default is locked, and that means if we want to unlock it, we need to make sure which cells we want to make unlock. So we mark those cells, we format and unlock them. The problem is that it didn't change anything, because locking and unlocking only works if the sheet is protected. And that means now if we go to the review part, we have here the protection of the sheet. And if we protect the sheet, we have the basic setting of protecting the sheet where we still can select locked cells and select the unlocked cells, but only in the unlocked cells we can interact. And we put a password in here, and please type the password because you can't read it. And if you mistype yourself and you copy and paste it into the next question, you have a really secure password. And now everything is locked. That means we can't enter anything in any of the cells anymore. And we really want to make sure nothing to be entered except those unlocked cells. And still the locked cells are updated. That means if you have any calculation, this is done properly. I would really recommend if you protect your sheets to think about the option of deselecting the locked cells, because that would change a little bit. Because if you do the selection like this, and then you put your password in again, you can't click on any of the other cells, including those cells with the formulas, but you can only click on the proper cells that are unlocked. And that's one of the reasons why the unlocked cells, or the cells where you expect the people to interact, should be marked by colors or anything else so that the people know where to go. Additionally, if you have kind of a cell where you expect the people to interact, it's still tricky, because even if you protect your sheet now, sorry, if you protect your sheet, it doesn't prevent somebody of making nonsense or a mistake here. And that means if we have protected it, that's fine, as far as we are now quite sure that nobody will change our formula anymore, because if we protect the sheet, nobody can click on the formula rather than doing any nonsense. So what we want to do is make sure that what is it that the people are allowed to enter in those cells. And this option is to be found under data. For the data, we have data validation that we can choose from, and the data validation means that we're validating the entered data into the cell. Please be aware, only newly entered data will be validated. Already data that is in the cell will not be validated. That means basically every cell has the setting of allowing any value. That's the basic setting for all the cells, but we could tell him, well, only whole numbers, or we could allow decimals or a date or time or a text with a certain length. If we say whole numbers, we could also say, well, it should be between certain numbers or not between or equal to or less or greater than. So we could have kind of additional limits. For example, we want to have a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 15. And if we do so, now we can enter like 10. But if we enter 16, he gives us the error message that this is not what we wanted to have. These minimum, maximum, I would really normally refer to in a cell. Why? Because then if we do the data validation, we can easily refer to the proper cells here. And if we change the values, everything enters, and we can now get 15, and if we put 20 inside, it doesn't work. And if we change the value here to 25, of course, now we can enter 20. So that is something that I really would recommend, and by default also recommend to put an input message, because if there's no input message, all you get is the error message, so wrong, and that can be kind of frustrating. So we could enter here, so please only insert numbers from, that's Q, I think it must be 9 and 10. Just checking, 9 and 10, yes. So if we click on the cell, we get those this information. So please only enter the numbers from Q9 to Q10, and so the range is here, and the people know about it. And if we now go to review and we protect the sheet, only those 2 cells can be activated, and the proper sheet means that if I'm clicking on a cell, getting the information, what is it that is expected, and then we can enter it. Sometimes it's kind of more tricky, so you have kind of an option of choosing, and decimals means you can also put kind of 5.7 inside. But there's another nice interesting thing, which is the list. And for a list, we could specify like choose 5 and 7 and 10 and 25. So we can give him a selection, and by doing so, now there is a drop-down list where you can choose from the given informations. This can be done, of course, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now you could go for the data validation, tell him, well, what we want to have is only selections from this list. As you can see now, the value inside is at the moment 10. And that means I can choose from the list from the proper ones. I can still always type in, and if I'm typing in 20, he will tell me this is wrong. I can retry entering something, for example, 25. No. If I'm now canceling it, it goes to the last known information that was inside, which is not checked anymore because it should be something between 1 and 9. And that's a little bit of a tricky part. So you can choose, but now you can't enter 10 anymore because it doesn't comply with the restriction here. So this list is kind of nice. It can be, of course, also kind of data validation. Do a list, take the information from here, and you have kind of a list of all the different employees, or you can do kind of department and drop out all the duplicates. But still, as always, if you click outside of the cell, you need to know where to find it again, because otherwise you will not notify it. So I'm normally doing something like this, using a color-coded one, or doing kind of borders around it, so I know, please insert something here and here, and then you can modify your workbook. And with the reviewing and protecting of the sheet, you can make sure that your formulas are not changed anymore, but still all the cells that you decided to kind of format cell unlock will be possible ways of interaction. Good. Thanks for your attention. See you again next time.